It was a chilly autumn evening in a small American town called Maple Ridge, the kind of place where everyone knew each other by name. Inside the old Route 9 diner, the smell of fresh coffee and apple pie filled the air. The jukebox hummed softly in the background, and the few regulars chatted quietly. Among them sat Henry Walker, an 81-year-old war veteran, dressed neatly in his faded military jacket, a cap reading Vietnam Vet resting proudly on his head. Henry came here every evening after sunset. It wasn't just about the food. It was about the peace, the comfort of routine, the smiles of the waitresses who adored him, and the warmth of the place that reminded him life could still be gentle after years of battle. That peace was shattered when the diner's door swung open with a loud creak. A man in his late 20s, Derek, swaggered in wearing a black hoodie and torn jeans. He reeked of arrogance and cheap whiskey. The waitress, nervous, asked him what he'd like to order. Instead of answering politely, he grinned and said something rude, earning uneasy glances from the other customers. Derek's eyes fell on Henry. He noticed the veteran's jacket and smirked. "What's this?" he sneered, walking closer. "Another old man pretending he's still a hero?" Henry looked up calmly. "Just someone who served his country, son," he replied softly. Derek laughed mockingly, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Yeah? And what did that get you? Sitting here alone in a dusty diner?" Henry didn't rise to the bait. He simply folded his paper and said, "It got me the right to sit here in peace. Something you clearly don't understand." That's when Derek's face twisted with anger. Without warning, he slapped Henry across the face, the sound echoing through the diner like a gunshot. The entire diner froze. A coffee cup shattered in the silence. The waitress gasped, running to Henry's side. "Sir, are you okay?" she cried, glaring at Derek. Henry steadied himself, rubbing his cheek. "I'm fine," he said quietly, his voice steady, but his eyes held the strength of a man who had faced worse. Derek puffed up his chest, trying to show dominance. "You better watch yourself, old man," he growled. The waitress rushed toward the phone to call the police, her hands trembling. "You can't do that to him. He's a veteran." But before she could even dial, the sound of motorcycle engines echoed faintly outside, deep, thunderous, and synchronized. The floor vibrated slightly as more engines joined in, growing louder by the second. Derek frowned, glancing toward the window. "What the hell is that?" The waitress peeked through the glass, eyes widening.
"Oh my God."
"It's the Hells Angels." And at the front of the pack was a tall, broad man with a familiar face. Jack Walker, Henry's son, a former Marine-turned-biker. He had come to surprise his father for his birthday, unaware that fate had already written a different kind of reunion for that night. The sound of the engines stopped, and silence fell again, thicker than before. Something big was about to happen. The sound of engines outside the diner grew louder, deep, rhythmic, and powerful, like thunder rolling through the valley. Every head inside turned toward the window. A line of Hells Angels motorcycles had pulled up outside the Route 9 diner, their chrome shining under the streetlights. The door swung open, and in walked Jack Walker, son of the veteran. A man built like a wall, his leather jacket bearing the iconic flaming skull emblem. His boots echoed with every step, and his eyes instantly found his father. Henry sat at his booth, his cheek still red from the slap. Jack's face hardened. "Who did this?" he said, his voice calm but dangerous. The room went silent. No one moved. Derek, the thug, tried to play it cool, but his hands started to shake. Jack took a step closer. "I said, who touched my father?" he repeated, this time his tone colder, lower, and deadlier. Derek swallowed hard but tried to sound tough. "Just teaching him some respect," old man was mouthing off. Jack chuckled, not because it was funny, but because of the absurdity. The rest of the Hells Angels filed in behind him, their presence filling the diner with a quiet, intimidating energy. One of them locked the door behind them while another stood by the window, arms crossed. "You think slapping an 81-year-old veteran makes you a man?" Jack asked, stepping forward until he stood inches away from Derek. The thug looked up at him, realizing just how small he seemed now. I didn't mean," Derek stammered. Jack's jaw tightened. "You didn't mean what? To hit a man who fought for your freedom?" To humiliate someone who earned every scar on his body so you could sit here today? The waitress stood silently behind the counter, tears in her eyes. She had seen fights before, but this was different. This wasn't about revenge. It was about respect. Jack reached out and grabbed Derek by the collar, pulling him close enough to whisper, "You're going to apologize to my father." Loud enough for everyone in this place to hear. Then you're going to walk out of here and never come back. Derek's voice shook. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to disrespect you." Henry, ever the man of grace, nodded gently. "Son, the best way to show respect is to learn from your mistakes," he said softly. Jack released Derek, who stumbled back, pale and humiliated. The bikers stepped aside, letting him flee out the door into the night. The diner was silent for a moment. Then one by one people began to clap, quietly at first, then louder. The waitress smiled through her tears. "About time someone stood up for what's right," she said. Jack turned to his father and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Sorry I'm late, old man," he said with a grin. Henry smiled warmly. "You're right on time, son." That night, the Route 9 diner became more than just a place to eat. It became a symbol, a reminder that honor never ages, that respect must be earned, and that family, whether by blood or brotherhood, always stands tall when it matters most. Outside, the Hells Angels roared their engines once more, saluting the veteran before riding off into the night, leaving behind not fear, but a story that the town of Maple Ridge would never forget.